Hello, and we are going to go over the answer key for the geometry test number 2 study guide. So let's take a look at the first learning target. I can find the area of a composite shape. If we look at number 1, I can see that there are two shapes here in number 1. One is a half circle. So if I think about the formula for area of a half circle, that's pi r squared. But since I have a half circle, I know that I'm going to take that area that I get for that circle and divide it by 2. I also see a rectangle, and I know the formula for a rectangle is base times height. So let's take a look here at the circle first. So I know that the diameter of that circle here is the same as the base of that rectangle, which is 8. So if I want to figure out the radius, I'm going to take 8 and divide it by 2, and the radius will be 4. So to figure out the area of this circle, I'm going to take 3.14 for pi times 4 squared, and I get 50.24, but I can't forget to divide by 2 because I have a half circle, and I get 25.12. Now if I look at the formula for area of a rectangle, base times height, I know the base, which is 8, times my height, which is 6, to give me 48. And now to figure out the total area of this composite shape, so the half circle and the rectangle, I'll take 48 and I'll add to that 25.12. And when I add those two together, I get 73.12 yards squared. And that's my final answer. Number 2 falls under the same learning target, if I can find the area of a composite shape. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to notice that there is a triangle here for one shape and a rectangle for the other. So let's look first here at the triangle. So I'm going to draw in here dashed line for the height, about right there. And I don't know the height, but I can figure that out. And I know, well, first off, that formula for area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. And I know that the base here is going to be 8, because I know that it's the same on this side as it will be on that base of that triangle. So I know 8. But now to figure out this height, I need to see that this entire distance up here is 17. And if I know that this portion is 12, to get the height, I would take 17 minus 12, and that would give me 5 for the height. So I'll write in 5 right there. So to find the area of that triangle, I'll take 8 times 5 and divide it by 2. And then 8 times 5 I know is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So that formula for the area of that triangle is 20. And if I look here at, maybe a little triangle underneath it so you remember that's formula for area of a triangle. And over here for a rectangle, this one is just going to be base times height. And I know I have my base of 12 times my height of 8, and 12 times 8 is 96. So to find the area of that entire figure, I'll take 96 and I'll add 20, and then I will get 116 centimeters squared for the area of this composite figure. Number 3 has quite a bit of shapes in it, so I'm going to draw here all the shapes that I see. So I've split up this composite figure into 3 different shapes. I have 2 rectangles and 1 triangle. So let's break this down because we're not given quite everything that we need. We need to figure out a couple of missing items. So let's first look at this rectangle down here. So I know that I have my base and my height, and my base is 10 and my height is 5, so 10 times 5, which is 50. So I figured out that rectangle. Now, if I look over at this rectangle right here, I know that this side here is 5 because this whole, we change colors in purple here, this whole side is 10. But I only want half of this right here, and if I know that this bottom portion is 5, this top portion has got to be 5 for it all to equal 10. So let me erase so we can see that 10 right there. So I know that here this is 10, or 5, excuse me, but I got to figure out this top portion here. And I'm actually given that portion, so that's 6.7. So I know I have 5 times 6.7 for that smaller rectangle, and 5 times 6.7 is 33.5. So I got my 2 rectangles figured out. Now, the last thing I need to look at here is this triangle. So I know I need base times height divided by 2. So let's look. This base here, that height I should say, is going to be 5, because I know that this other side here was 5. But now I need to figure out this distance right here, that base. Well, if I know that, this whole bottom portion is 10, and this part here is 6.7, I know that this is going to be 10 minus 6.7 for my height, which is 3.3. So I'll try to write that in, 3.3. So now my base is 5, my height is 5. No, my base is 5, my height is 3.3 that I just solved for. It doesn't really matter which one I call the height and which one I call the base. I'm going to use them both in the formula anyway. So 5 times 3.3 divided by 2 will give me 8.25. So I have my triangle right there, and I have my other 2 rectangles, which I underlined right here and here. So to find the area of this entire composite shape, I take 8.25 plus 33.5 plus 50, and that will give me 91.75 inches squared. So let me write this answer right here, 91.75 inches squared. All right, so let's look at number 4. Number 4 has a half circle and a triangle, so I'll draw my line in here so I can see the clear cutoff. And I'm given that the radius of that half circle is 15. So let's figure out the area of this half circle. I'll take pi r squared, so 3.14 times my radius squared. And then since it's a half circle, I'm going to divide by 2. And 3.14 times 15 squared divided by 2 is actually 353.25. And then I will look at the triangle here, and I know that the base of the triangle is 15 plus 15. So all of right there, that's going to be 30. And then if I know that this entire distance is 30, the radius of that half circle here is 15, that this half here also has to be 15. So the formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So 15 times 30 divided by 2, which is 225. So to find this area of this composite figure, it will be 353.25 plus 225, and that added up together gives me 578.25 millimeters squared. The next learning target we will look at is I can find the perimeter of a composite shape. Number 5 looks like it's a trapezoid with a half circle. So I'll write that down, trapezoid and half circle. But, I mean, knowing that I do have a trapezoid doesn't change a whole lot when I want to find the perimeter. I still just have to add up all of the sides. So I know I'm going to add up 16 plus 20 plus 16. Then I actually have to figure out the circumference of this half circle. So the circumference formula is pi times diameter, or circumference equals 2 pi r. And since I'm given the diameter of 13, I'm just going to go ahead and use this top formula here and figure out 3.14 times my diameter divided by 2, which gives me 20.41. So I know now when I want to add up this entire outer region of the figure, it's 20.41 plus 16 plus 20 plus another 16. So everything I had underlined plus that circumference of that half circle. And 20.41 plus 16 plus 20 plus 16 gives me 72.41, and I'll just label it centimeters since it's finding the perimeter. Number 6 here has a lot going on. I do want to figure out the perimeter, but there's a couple of sides that I don't know. So I'm going to put a little question mark by the sides that I'm not given, which would be this side over here, and then this distance right up here. So to figure out the distance over here, I'm just going to look at this side here on the right, and those are actually the same distance, which is 8.7, so I'm going to write 8.7 over there and fill that in. And then this distance up here, I actually have to calculate if I know, change colors, that this entire distance is 15, this is 4.6, this is 3.9. I can take 15 and subtract 4.6 and 3.9 to figure out what I'm left over with, and I am left over with 6.5. So this distance here is 6.5. So I just figured out those two that I've circled, those distances that I was not given to begin with. And now I have all of the sides, so I should be able to go ahead and add up everything. So I'm going to change to orange here. I'm going to write down everything I need to add. So I'm going to add 15 plus 8.7 plus 3.9 plus this right here is 3.2 plus 6.5 that I just figured out plus another 3.2 right there plus 4.6 plus 8.7. And when I add all those up together, I get a final solution of 53.8 meters. Our next learning target is I can find the area of a shaded region. So if we look here at number 7, I have one large circle with two smaller circles cut out of it. So let's go ahead and figure out the area of the large circle first. The formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. So I'm going to take 3.14 and multiply that by my radius, which I'm going to figure out by taking 20.5 and dividing that by 2, and I get 10.25, so that's the radius of my large circle. So 3.14 times 10.25 squared, which is 329.90. So that's the area, centimeters, of the large circle. Now let's figure out the area of each small circle, and so that's 3.14 times, and then again to figure out my radius, I'll take 5.5 divided by 2, and that gives me 2.75. So 3.14 times 2.75 squared is 23.75. And again, I got 23.75 because I did have to round up. And I know that I have two of those circles, so I'm going to just figure out what 23.75 times 2, or, 23.75 plus 23.75 is, and I get 47.50. So that's the area of the small circles. So I'll write small circles. And over here, this was the large circle. So to figure out the area of just the shaded region, I'm going to take my large circle, which is 329.90, and I want to subtract the area of the two smaller circles of 47.50. And when I do that, I get 282. So I'm going to fill my answer in here. I get 282.4 centimeters squared. Number 8 appears to be a rectangle with a triangle cut out of it. So to figure out the area of this rectangle, I'm going to take base times height. So for rectangle equals 19 times 13, and I get 247. Then to figure out the area of this triangle, that is base times height divided by 2, and I do know here the height is 13, and then this base is the same base as, this distance up here, so that's 19. So I'll have 19 times 13 divided by 2, which is 123.5. And then just to find the area of the shaded region, I'm going to take the rectangle, subtract my triangle, and 247 minus 123.5 is actually 123.5. So that is my answer, and I can fill that in here in my answer box. 123.5 units squared, since they didn't give us a unit to begin with. So I'll label it units squared. All right, the final learning target is I can answer a word problem involving geometry. Number 9 says, how many square feet of glass is needed to make the window shown? Round to the nearest 10th. So if I look here at this top portion, this is actually a half circle, and then down below here, this is a rectangle. So I need to figure out the area of a half circle, add that to the area of the rectangle, and then that will tell me how many square feet that I have, and that, or what I'll need for this glass window. So let's start with the half circle. I'm going to have 3.14 times my radius, and since I have this total distance down here of 4, I'm going to cut that in half to give me my radius, which will be 2 squared, and then I will divide that by 2, and that's going to give me 6.3 if I round to the nearest 10th. And then for this rectangle, I will take 10.5, so 10.5 times 4 for base times height, and that will give me 42. So to find then the area of this total figure, so I can figure out how much square feet of glass I'll need for this window, I'll take 42 and add 6.3, which will give me 48.3 feet squared of glass. Number 10 says, which two figures have the same shaded, or the same area shaded? So what I need to do is figure out the area for all of these figures. So I'm going to figure out first the area of figure 1. So one right over here. Number 1 is a rectangle, so base times height, which is 15 times 12. And 15 times 12 is 180 meters squared. So that's the answer for number 1, figure 1. Okay, so now let's figure out figure 2. So figure 2, and I'll put that right below. So figure 2 is a circle. It's actually a half circle is what I want to figure out the area for. I mean, I know that 7.5 is the diameter, so I need to figure out the radius of that and take 7.5 divided by 2, and I get 3.75. So I'll take 3.14 times 3.75 squared, and then I know I'll have to divide by 2. And when I do that, I get 22.08 meters squared. So obviously 1 and 2 are not the same. And then let's look at figure 3. Put that right here as a triangle. So base times height divided by 2. So let's see here, I have 15 times 20 divided by 2, and 15 times 20 divided by 2 is 150 meters squared. So it looks like 1, 2, and 3 are not the same, so I'll have to see what number 4 is. And figure 4 is a trapezoid. So that formula for a trapezoid is 1/2 times height times base 1 plus base 2, and my height here is 20, so 1/2 times 20 times base 1, which is 9. Oops, and you can't see base 2 here. That's actually 6. So 9 plus 6. And when I take 1/2 times 20 times the quantity 9 plus 6, I get 150 meters squared, which is the same as figure 3. So if I look over to my answer, I see figure 3 and figure 4 is C, and my answer there is C. All right, question 11 says, Ricky draws the circle shown at the right. He shades one region of the circle. What is the approximate area of the sector? So it looks like here, for number 11, I need to figure out the area of the circle, and then I only want 1/4 of it, so I'll take my area and divide it by 4 so I can figure out what 1/4 of that entire circle is. So to figure out the area of a circle, I will take 3.14 times the radius, which is 8, and I'll square it. And I get for the area of 200.96, but that's the area of the entire circle. I only want this 1/4 of it right here. So I'll take that answer and divide it by 4, and I get, for my answer, 50.24. So that's 1/4 of my circle, and that's what I want to see that Ricky shades with that one region. So 50.24 is, approximately 50 yards squared. All right, question 12. The picture shows an office building and its lawn. And the first question is, what is the area of the lawn? Well, I just want that green area right there. So let's figure out first here what I want to actually figure out. So I need to figure out, the trapezoid. So 1/2, the height times base 1 plus base 2. But then I essentially want to subtract the office, which would be base times height. So now let's figure out all the numbers that we need. And I have 1/2 the height, which is 100, times base 1, which is 115, plus base 2, which is 160, minus the base of my office, which is 70, times the height, which is 75. And I can type that in my calculator, the first portion of 1/2 times 100 times 115 plus 160. And I get, for that, I'll write this right down here, 13,750, and then 70 times 75, I get 5,250. So if I subtract those, I get 8,500, the area of the lawn. So I'll write that up here, 8,500 feet squared is the area of that lawn. And the second question says, if one bag of grass seed covers 1,500 square feet, how many bags do you need to seed the entire lawn? Well, my lawn is 8,500 feet squared, and each grass seed bag of grass seed covers 1,500 square feet. So if I list those out, and I say, okay, I need at least 8,500. If I start listing those, right, 1,500, 1,500, 1,500, 1,500 plus 1,500 give me 3,000, plus another, 3,000 would be 6,000, plus another 3,000, right, because 2 and 2 together, these give me 3,000, these would give me 3,000, and these two here would give me 3,000. I can't have, half a bag of grass seed, so I'll actually have to go over the limit here, because I can't have under the limit, because, these 4 here give me 6,000, plus, another 1,500 would give me 7,500, but that won't do, because I need to have at least 8,500. So if I add another 1,500, that will give me 9,000 feet that I can put grass seed on, which is a little bit more, but I need to make sure I can cover the entire lawn. So I'll have to go with 6 bags. All right, well, that's all of the questions that we've gone through on your study guide practice test. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you were able to get through all of the answers, and you remember, can rewatch any part of this video if you need to, or feel free to ask Miss Rowdy for additional help. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.